Namaste, India. I'm glad to be back, and today's topic is a very interesting one. It concerns the heritage of India, the ancient cities, temples, archaeological amazing sites being discovered in recent years, which are not getting enough publicity. The government hasn't funded, only a few scholars know these things, the general public doesn't know much, the school textbooks haven't reflected this, the media doesn't know. The literary festivals don't celebrate these things and don't honor the people who have discovered them and writing about them. Only a few scientists know most of these things. So I want to make each of you an ambassador of Indian heritage, Bharatiya culture, Vedic culture. So this way each of us can spread. And this is something everyone should be doing as part of their seva, as part of their dharma, their swadharma. So I will talk about a few places you've heard about and a few places you might not have heard about. So first I'm going to talk about a place called Mahendra Parvat. I would bet that maybe 1% of the audience have heard of Mahendra Parvat, which in the local language they translate as the mountain of Indra. Now this is a place in Cambodia. This is, and the research reports that I'm reading are absolutely amazing. What they've discovered is under a mountain, which has a pond with the Shivlingams, 1008. I have actually been there during the Hindu-Buddhist summit, visited that pond, walked in that pond with Swami Paramatmanand of the Hindu Dharmacharya Sabha. This meeting was organized by Swami Dayanand Saraswati many years ago. But at that time, it was not known that underneath this forest, there is a huge city. It's a huge complex of old temples, old mandirs. And this is considered now the largest empire of the world as of 1,000 years ago. And this is not something that people have made up. It's not local folklore. This is archaeologists from around the world, people from Australia, India, Europe. They've come to this conclusion that nothing of comparable size and sophistication existed at that time in the world. So Mahendra Parvat is not a simple place. It's not a very trivial place that we can sort of ignore. This is a complex of a huge technological sophistication. There is a sophisticated irrigation water management system. There is a highway connecting Mahendra Parvat with Angkor Wat, which is several kilometers away. And so if you go, it's tens of kilometers of city complexes. So I'm absolutely amazed by the new things they keep finding, the new discoveries that they keep coming up with from Mahendra Parvat. And it is amazing that when I talk to people who ought to know, people from our side, our heritage, many of them just don't know, many of them don't care. So this is one example of what I want to bring to your attention today. Let's move over to Haryana, thousands of miles away from Cambodia. Haryana has two of the most amazing ancient heritage sites. And most people I met from Haryana don't know these. One is Rakhi Gadi. Rakhi Gadi is the largest discovered Harappan era city, the Indus Saraswati city. People used to think that Mohenjo-daro and Harappa are the oldest and largest, but that is no longer the case because new things have been discovered. And this Rakhi Gadi is in Haryana. So it has all the qualities of the other Indus Saraswati civilization in terms of architecture, construction, technology, the way of life, the symbols, the tiles, the linguistic symbols in them, which have not been fully decoded. So Rakhi Gadi is another one that has to be given importance. The Haryana government is giving a little bit of lip service, but I don't think that suffices given the stature of this. Another one I want to, and then I'll make my point. I want to give you 3 or 4 examples in a nutshell, then I'll make some points on what you should do, what ought to be done. An amazing place that very few have heard. Rakhi Gadi is a lot of scholar type people have heard. But there is this place, Bhir in Haryana, several kilometers from Rakhi Gadi. This is the oldest. It is 7,500 years before Christ, almost 10,000 years old from today. This is the oldest major city in the world. It is older than Mehergarh in Pakistan, which was considered to be the oldest Harappan site. It is older than Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, all of these places. And besides being the oldest, the second distinguishing characteristic is that this city in Haryana is continuous from the earliest, being the earliest, from there to the later Harappan, a history of 5,000 years from the beginning to the end is all in this one place. So there is no doubt about the continuity of that civilization. People have doubted, maybe the different towns were different people lived, maybe there were different races, ethnic groups, and maybe they came from various other places. People have speculated all that about this Indus-Saraswati civilization. So the discovery of this one place puts all that to rest, because now in one place we have all these things over a period of 5,000 years. All the stuff that is found elsewhere, it's also found here, from the beginning till onwards. So that's quite an amazing thing. Then another ancient place not fully studied, not adequately understood, is the city of Dwarka, just outside the coast off the coast of Gujarat. This is Krishna's kingdom, capital. It's mentioned in our texts that this thing gets washed. And so now the archaeologists are saying that the land sunk between the sea, under the sea around 1700 BCE. So which means that about 5,000 years ago from now, this 4,000 years ago, the land sunk under the sea. So that was the end of that town. But it had been a huge complex which needs submarines and things like that to go and explore under the water. So this place has a lot of symbols and a lot of architectural design qualities which resemble what is written in the Mahabharata, what is written in the Itihas. So there is no doubt that this validates our Itihas also, because this is all very scientifically established. Very interesting discovery is in Tamil Nadu. That Tamil Nadu, people have said that all these things are in the north, and maybe from there they went to Cambodia. Actually, the Cambodians came from South India. The civilization came from South India. But now, and people said, okay, there is Ram Setu, but that's at the southern end. What's in between? What's in between North India and Ram Setu? There's no evidence. And so they try to show that that's a separate civilization. But that's not true, because right in Tamil Nadu, they have discovered major places which are linked with the Indus Valley civilization, both in terms of design, in terms of the techniques and the symbols used and so on. And over 3,000 artifacts have been discovered in Tamil Nadu in some archaeological sites. Now, I don't want to turn this into a lesson in scientific archaeology and so on. The points I want to make are the following. What is being studied about our ancient past is scattered. So the people are studying one location or another location. We need to put all this together into the old history of India. We have to reclaim the Indian grand narrative using these discoveries. And there's too much dependence on Western scholars who take one thing and publish it in their own journal. They look at it through their own drishti, not necessarily our Vedic drishti. And the tendency has been to downplay the Hindu links. Even though they'll say that this deity is Indra, they will not say Hinduism. In some other place, they'll say this is Shiva, but they will not link it. The impression given is that these were polytheistic people, chaotic, lot of different gods, primitive and fragmented. And that's the kind of impression given in guidebooks. Even in the UNESCO heritage sites, database, online, they don't classify these as Hindu. And that's part of your job as an ambassador, to talk to, whether it's a BBC reporter, whether it's somebody in the Indian press, or whether it's UNESCO, whoever it is, or to tour guide. You have to go and convince them and lobby with them that the Hindu origins and the whole thing being a Hindu civilization has to be acknowledged. So and we need an interdisciplinary approach. We need art historians, we need Shastra experts, we need archaeologists, technologists, metallurgists, linguists, people who can do genetic research. All of that we need to put together rather than waiting for others to put it together according to their own ideology. And this needs a big jump in funding. We need world-class journals also. This sort of thing gets no play in literary festivals. Like you go to Jaipur Literary Festival, they're not going to honor somebody like who's come up with these kind of things. Book awards aren't being given for people who write on this, nor is it in the textbooks. Now there is a field called biblical archaeology, very big field in the American Academy and the European Academy. Their job is to go around all these biblical lands and keep looking for things and look at through the biblical drishti and say, this must mean that, this must be the place where that happened. And they match the text and the physical discovery and keep embellishing biblical archaeology. But if you say Vedic archaeology, you will be accused of all sorts of things. But we need to create a Vedic archaeology. We should be very open that there ought to be Vedic archaeology. And all these different archaeologies of the old Bharat Rashtra, as a Vedic space ought to be very clearly established, and that should be our game plan. If similar discoveries had been made concerning biblical archaeology or ancient Western civilization, believe me, it would be all over the place. This would be the talk of CNN and all kinds of things. Awards would be given. There would be international conferences. But our government, it ought to be doing that. We ought to have regular conferences for scholars to talk about this very thing, bring all the disciplines together. There should be people from media, people from Bollywood, people from who are documentary makers. We should have something equivalent to the Discovery Channel where such things get mentioned and discussed, you see. There should be tourism based on ancient heritage tourisms. These sites should be developed so people can go and watch an IMAX movie, a three-dimensional IMAX movie walking through, Krishna's Dwarka, or one of these other great sites. While there is this big clamor for the Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings, because they tell you very ancient, great things, we have all that stuff, but it's real, it's not mythic. It's backed by history and archaeology. So we ought to be also stimulating the imagination of our movie makers and people like that. And please, fight those who call all our itihas myth, because this is scientific evidence. We are matching what has been mentioned in these texts with physical discoveries. There is no way to argue against it. You have to be better informed yourself, and then you can be an ambassador. If you are not well informed, you cannot go and represent and argue, because you will get emotional and upset, and that's not the way to argue. I found that even our IAS officers and IFS officers need to be re-educated, because they've been educated in the old colonial system and they themselves don't know many of these things. We need our industrialists to sponsor such things. The industrialists should feel proud that they have sponsored the redevelopment of one of these places. They should put huge sums of money. Somebody should buy this submarine, which is an archaeology submarine, where these guys go and they map up all the place, and they have cameras, and in darkness they can have infrared photography of make videos and all that. So this kind of research costs money, and it is not only the government. Government, of course, should do a lot more than it's doing, but others should also pitch in. Now, the Ministry of Culture needs to jump into this. The Ministry of Culture, it's not just Bollywood and Shah Rukh Khan doing, Bhangra and all that stuff. These are the things that ought to be showcased. These are the things we should lobby and get them on the world map, on our terms, okay? And information and broadcasting, tourism, HRD, external affairs, these are all ministries that ought to be involved in this. So I have given you an overview. I'm going to now look at some questions that are coming up, I'm sure. Let me see what are some of the questions coming up here. I'm new to this, so this is the first time I'm going to take live questions. I'm not getting questions. Let's see where I get my questions. Okay, here they are. Okay. I'm not, okay. We should, so somebody says, Tanoy Bose says we should also talk about the word bhakt is being used in an extremely defamatory way. Yes, bhakt is being used in an extremely defamatory way, and it's considered backward and primitive. So I'm proud to say I do bhakti. And if more and more people come out and start saying, then it will not be, such a derogatory term. I need to know. So I have the government of India should listen to Mr. Rajiv Malhotra, says Anant Vijay. Okay, thank you very much. What roles can temples play? Is Vandana's question. Excellent question. What role temples can play is every temple in India can become a museum for all these sites, can have can show movies, documentaries, can organize tours. You know, in biblical archaeology, you go to a local church and they'll put you on some kind of a biblical tour and take you around. And every one of them has got books and has got videos and so on. So then there is there's Ragini Sharma saying, should GOI use Hindu instead of Vedic heritage sites? Well, yes, I mean, we can use Vedic heritage, we can use Hindu. To me, they are fine. But we should not avoid this. Sometimes it doesn't mention it's secularized. That is the problem I have. I have no problem with either Hindu or Vedic. Okay, then how can we counter Devdutt Patnaik? Okay, so but here's just one example. We have to, rather than knocking down somebody else who's using myths that he has heard from Wendy Doniger and places, we have to do a better job of showing the link between science and the archaeology being discovered and how this fits into the Itihas and the various texts. How the Kumbh Mela is 8 to 10,000 years. We have to match that with the various physical sites and do archaeology. So as we start putting things together, using multiple disciplines, and we start educating our own people, then, you know, we will drown the voices of these kind of myth type of people. So is it possible for that tourists to visit these places? Yes, it is possible. Some of the places are controlled by the Archaeological Survey of India. And this is a Government of India organization that is allergic to the word Hindu. It started by the British era, and so they try to secularize and downplay Hindu for whatever reason. They think it will create communalism or something like that. But you need to get your voice in there, and you can get their permission and visit. So some of the places have been open to the public, but naturally places which are active research sites, they don't want the public coming and walking away with artifacts. So those places are not open. So the recent discovery, does Government of India is involved? I don't know. I mean, what I know is that this Mahendra Parvat has been sort of taken over by Australian and European and American archaeologists. They're sort of taken over and worked out some deal with the Cambodian government. Maybe Indian government is involved, maybe not. I'm not aware. So I think people are saying, would you like to write a book? Well, the thing is, I can't be the only one writing these books, you know. I mean, I'm getting old and I can just tell you what I know. A lot of things that will be unwritten by me, and others have to get involved. Another question is, should the Government of India remove control over the temples? Of course it should do that. Because you see, the thing is that when some site is discovered, ancient site, and that is a mandir, and there's a deity, and there is a fire altar, all of that stuff, it should be turned over to some Hindu organization to operate it. They should start doing pujas again. Why not? So to treat them as a secular archaeological site means that the sacredness is not allowed. Okay, so somebody says we've known about Dwarka for a while. We know that it's a few kilometers from the coastline. How do we overcome the fact that it is in the ocean? Well, there are submarines for archaeologists. There are submarines where 1 man, 2 men, they can go, and they have video cameras in the darkness, and they make measurements, and they do all kind of interesting things. Some industrialist should buy one of these and gift it. There is also this marine archaeology, undersea archaeology in India. S.R. Rao started this. S.R. Rao is a great archaeologist who died in 2013. It's people like that should have been given Padma awards and brought into literary festivals and bestseller book awards and all that stuff. He spent his life making these discoveries, and he's one of many. These people are known to their colleagues as great thinkers, but beyond that, we haven't given them the recognition. Now, there is a lot of questions. What I will do is I will sign off, because I think I decided to keep this to 20 minutes because that's the Beyond that, people don't like the videos. So I will come back and take on this topic. I will go and read your comments online and take on this same topic, come back in a few days and address your questions. So keep entering comments on the page, and I will scan through, pick the few big ones, main important ones, and come back to you with another session where I will actually focus entirely on answering your questions. All right? And till then, namaskar to all of you, and thank you so much for listening.